Has it ever crossed your mind when thinking about an insurance policy that you might be able to build your own? Well, let's hear if that is indeed allowed. Joining me today, Andries Wiese from Hollard Agri. Andries, answer that question, yes or no?
Yes.
Well, good. Thank you very much. But every farming business, and that's what we're talking about today, differs. It's got unique risks and circumstances. And I suppose there's not one size fits all policy available for everybody. Where do we start? What can we do? What do you recommend?
Good day, Lisa. When you're looking at your own risk, it's important to make a decision as to what am I afraid of? What is keeping me awake at night? And that will differ from person to person. We all live in different circumstances. We live in different farms. We live in different areas. And there are various risks that we're exposed to. And some affect us more than others and some don't. And the starting point for all of this is to appreciate that you have to understand what you're living with. What is it that affects your life and what is key to your success? Because I can give you a generic solution, but it's exactly that. It's a generic solution, which then means that you kind of have a squeeze and a fit to try and manipulate your circumstances into a form that is built for Joe Soap. Might not be effective. It could solve a lot of your risks for you. It could help you mitigate a lot of things. But in the final analysis, you're still dealing with a generic solution. It's a bit like food. If you're a chicken fan, as it were, there are a lot of generic chicken restaurants in South Africa that you can go to. And you kind of get the same old wherever you go. And you have an expectation of that. But if you're inviting your in-laws, or perhaps friends, for a meal, you're going to have a bespoke recipe. You're going to make something special and not do a Trumpian, let's have KFC for supper.
Would you need a professional to give you guidance? Would you recommend that?
Absolutely. In the same way, to use the cooking analogy, you wouldn't kind of wing it with whatever you remember from childhood and mom teaching you. You would take a recipe and you would follow the recipe. But that recipe, in this instance, is a very specific thing that you need to do in order to get the end result you want. And you would start off by, as I said earlier, understanding what the risks are that you are concerned about and list them. And then you have to understand what are the items that you cannot live without. It's that old need to and nice to have scenario. If I am a cattle farmer, I'm probably less dependent on my tractor than I am on my shed with all the animal feed in it. And conversely, if I'm a grain farmer, tractor's kind of important in my life. So understand not only what you're afraid of, but what are the items in your farming operation that could potentially kill the business if they weren't there. If you're dependent on large storage facilities and your storage shed burns down, that's critical to your business. If you couldn't give two hoots about a storage shed, but you happen to have one, it's perhaps less important. And once you've analyzed all of that, putting it together and understanding what could affect it. And that's where we start talking about specific risks and perils. If I live next to a river, flooding is more important. If I live in the middle of the Kalahari, flooding might not be my key concern. And in this way, you start analyzing the various items you have against the things that you're scared that could happen, and you start building a structure within which your risks, your fears are addressed in the most cost-effective way. Because in the final analysis, you and I appreciate the fact that we do need insurance. Somebody needs to back me in my day-to-day. But I also want to do it in a cost-effective manner. And like anything, the more luxurious you go, the more expansive your covers are, etc., you pay for the privilege. I have no doubt about that. But if you can manage it, you could essentially end up with better cover more applicable cover to your specific circumstances, but in a cost-effective manner. And that is first prize. But to do that, you're going to need some help. And this is where a professional broker becomes absolutely critical. Somebody who understands farming, somebody who understands the market, what is available, what solutions are available, how can I combine these solutions, and to guide you through the process. And this individual is important, must also have a trust relationship with you. Because if we look at short-term insurance, the reality is it's no longer a standalone policy that covers all. It's a specific tailor-made solution for your circumstances. And if I don't know you, I cannot, in any way or shape, really mitigate your specific
So
risk.
that professional person will have a list and they will ask you the relevant questions and you answer those questions, and with those results, that analysis, you build your own still.
You build the policy, and if he does his job or her job correctly, they will give you various options as well. We could do this or we could do that. This is the implications if you do it. I could exclude flood cover, but then if there's a flood, you have no cover, and it would mean you have an X saving. I could include certain perils which other people might not be concerned about. If you're dependent, and it's very relevant in these days, if you're dependent on a single access road to your farm, it's not on your farm, but if that bridge washes away, nobody can get in and out of your farm. That might be relevant to you. How do you mitigate for that? Whereas I've got 7 roads leading in and out, I couldn't be bothered about external parties also being at risk. Also, if you're dependent on suppliers, be it for fertilizer or whatever the case might be, or you're dependent on buyers, people who are buying your product, your produce. If that person's building or packing shed or canning factory, whatever the case might be, if that burns down, washes away, where does that leave you? And this, it's just a simple exercise or an explanation perhaps of your world looking decidedly different than mine, although we might both be farming with apples.
Andries, these days, with anything we do or buy, T's and C's apply.
Indeed.
Is there a catch somewhere?
The catch lies therein that there is in each and every insurance policy and product, there are certain requirements. So, and a good example of this would be if you've got a packing shed, your insurer will in all likelihood require you to have some form of firefighting equipment. It could be a hose reel, it could be a drowsing system. There are a variety of things. Just be sure when you structure the policy that you understand where and what is required upfront. Insurers cannot post-fact impose limitations. It has to all happen upfront so that at the start of the contract we all understand what we're talking about and what we're dealing with. If you do not pay attention at that stage, you could run into T's and C's, as it were. Important again, use the insurance broker you have at your disposal. Use the knowledgeable technical person to assist you and to highlight those points for you. Some of them we in the industry regard as standard fare. But as a layman who does not deal with insurance every day, you might be in for a few surprises. So absolutely important, do the work up front and you'll be fine.
Well, can you build your own insurance policy? Indeed you can, as Andries mentioned today, but you need guidance, and that is where Hollard Agri comes in. Thank you very much for sharing that valuable information, Andries.
Don't swim alone.
Don't swim alone. There you have it.